new CBS polling is giving Donald Trump the edge over current President Biden. The former president holds a 4-point advantage nationally. A major reason why appears to be the economy. Voters rated the economy under the Trump administration more fondly than they do under Biden. 65% said the economy was good under Trump, while 38% say the same about Biden's economy. Joining us now is Bob Costa. Bob is CBS News Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. So just digging into these numbers, this was interesting because you and I have been on the campaign trail talking to voters, and I've sensed this talking to Republican voters that they just feel uneasy about how things are right now, and particularly as it pertains to the economy, which is interesting because the economy, at least on paper, it looks good. But voters are not feeling it, and especially Republican voters who are having a better recollection of the economy under Trump.
It's such an important point, Caitlin. You and I have spent so much time trying to listen to voters, really hear what people have to say, and they are putting kitchen table issues front and center in this campaign. So often the conversation in Washington and on Capitol Hill does not correspond to what we're hearing from voters. They really do care about the pain they feel at the pump in terms of their wallet, at the grocery store. And for the Biden administration, the challenge is talking about the economic gains they feel are there and vital and real and tangible to people, but knowing that people also still feel inflationary pain at the same time. And you do see President Biden going out to places like Michigan and the Midwest to try to engage with working Americans, especially those who are part of a labor union, to say he's come through for them with some of his signature bills. But former President Trump's also out there saying if you're a working person in this country, you may feel like you're really struggling. And he's going to be a hammer to the Washington establishment and to the Biden administration. And so both sides are trying to frame this on an economic level as they're the voice, the advocate for the working person. And that's the stiff competition.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know you've done a lot of reporting on the union aspect of this as well. That's really interesting. And Ed, I want to bring you in. Ed O'Keefe, of course, joins us now. He's CBS News senior White House and political correspondent. Ed, we were just talking about these poll numbers and the way in which voters give Trump a higher grade on the economy when he was president than Biden. But I'm wondering how the Biden team is assessing these kind of top line numbers showing Trump with an edge over the current president.
Well, a few things, Caitlin, and it's kind of predictable when you're the guy that's trailing. They're questioning the utility of polls and whether or not they're truly capturing what the country is thinking. They see them as snapshots in time, not necessarily reflective of where things will be in November. They also point out there have been some other national surveys like ours that show the president with a narrow lead, and that for every 2 or 3 that show Trump ahead of the president, the Biden team would argue there's at least 1 or 2 showing the president ahead of Trump. So who are you to believe? And on the issue of the economy, I would point you to what he said to the New Yorker, the president himself, in an interview published today, where he said a lot of the things that I have accomplished are just beginning to kick in. The idea that the billions and tens of billions of dollars in infrastructure spending for rebuilding or building semiconductor manufacturing across the country, the changes in healthcare pricing that we're expected to hear more about later this week in his State of the Union, are beginning to now get to the point where it's on the minds of voters, and you see it again in our survey for the 3rd or 4th straight month. Impressions of the economy are improving, not to a point where a majority of Americans think it's in good shape, but they've seen positive, sustained growth month over month now since about November, which they would say bodes well for them as you get closer to this November, when that will be on the minds of voters. Historically, you might say, well, you've got to have that in place by the spring, and you may not get there by then. But for now, at least, they're hopefully confident. And the other thing they keep saying, and I know this is tough for people who do this every day like we do, and for viewers who watch every day, the election's not today, they say. It's in November. We've got time. And that's a fair point that we should keep in mind.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, Ed. And Bob, I mean, Super Tuesday is kind of traditionally the time that's, you know, the biggest day in the campaign so far. This time around, it feels like a little bit of a turning point in terms of the general election stage being set.
It really is a turning point. Nikki Haley has struggled to accumulate delegates, though she did well in the Washington, D.C. primary. So you see Trump taking control of the delegate lead likely on Super Tuesday, but also taking control of the Republican National Committee. And the party is once again becoming a party in his image, under his control. His lieutenants will be installed in the coming weeks, I'm told by my top sources, to run all aspects of the party in different state parties and, of course, at the national level as well. And for President Biden, the challenge is going to be talking about issues like democracy. Can he bring the issue of January 6th back to the fore of our national conversation? Remind people about what happened that day and about Trump's role in and around January 6th in terms of the pressure campaign on former Vice President Pence, the effort to have electors come to Washington. Because the more we move closer to the general election, the further we move away from January 6th. And so many of my sources close to the president say that he wants to raise the stakes here, frame the stakes as something that's really about the democracy's future in this country. But he has to do that in a way that, to voters who are maybe not paying attention to the details of January 6th day in, day out.
Exactly. It's kind of reminding people of what they may have forgotten. It seems like the challenge. Ed, another challenge for the Biden administration, of course, among at least members of his base constituency, perhaps, is the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. I know Vice President Kamala Harris addressed this earlier today. What did she say?
That's right. She had a meeting earlier this Monday with Benny Gantz, who's a member of the Israeli War Cabinet, who made requests of American officials to meet with him while he was here against the wishes of Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government. Gantz was here at the White House earlier for meetings with the Vice President, the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and Brett McGurk, who's a lead envoy to the Middle East. The Vice President explained what the meeting was about before the meeting with reporters. Take a look.
Well, we're going to discuss a number of things in terms of the priorities that certainly we have, which includes getting a hostage deal done, getting aid in, and then getting that 6-week ceasefire. You know, the president and I have been very clear that Israel has a right to defend itself, that we have got to make sure that innocent civilians aren't being killed, and that we've got to get these hostages out. And that is one of the highest priorities right now we have. And I'll tell you, the president has been an extraordinary leader in getting us to this point that we have this 6-week deal. And so Hamas needs to do its thing, as I talked about yesterday in Selma.
The vice president in Selma, Alabama yesterday had called again for a ceasefire lasting at least 6 weeks to allow hostages to be swapped. We should point out, Gantz is seen as a potential future Israeli prime minister, and there's some intrigue about him coming here and the Biden administration meeting with him. He didn't get a meeting with the president because he's up at Camp David, still getting ready for the State of the Union address. And leaving a meeting with the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell just a few minutes ago, he told our Capitol Hill producer Alan He, no, the Americans should still be talking to Netanyahu because, quote, there's a prime minister. So he's here for these meetings to take the temperature, but by no means signaling that he's about to challenge Netanyahu and try to take leadership of Israel.
Interesting note on the politics there. Bob Costa, thank you very much. And Ed O'Keefe, thank you very much. And speaking of this week, stick with CBS News for Super Tuesday coverage all day tomorrow, including a 1-hour edition of America Decides starting at 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll also have special coverage of the races and the results at 7 p.m. Eastern on Prime Time with John Dickerson, and during a special Campaign 2024 edition of America Decides beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern.